up, guys? My name is Jaya and I love books. All things books, primarily fiction, and I definitely have an addiction. If that sounds like you, then you are definitely in the right spot, as I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday on bookish related content. For those of you that are new here, today we are going to be doing a series review, and we are going to be talking about the series Threads That Bind, Hearts That Cut. It's reading time here at J-Bay's Corner. For those of you that are returning, thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you back and to be building this bookish community with you guys. That being said, let's get into the video. Fun fact, I already filmed this video once and then the camera captured none of it. I didn't realize that it wasn't working at the time. So fingers crossed this one's gonna go a little bit better. In order to talk about both of these books, I will have to give spoilers as we near the end of the discussion on the first book. So before I go into that spoiler, I will give you guys a heads up. So just let me know if you have any questions. So let's talk about Threads That Bind. In this world, you basically have the non-elite, who are the humans, let me rephrase that. We have the humans who basically have no magical powers, but they are the elite of society, meaning they're the ones that hold jobs, power, money, and they live in the wealthier part of town. You also have otherborns. Otherborns are individuals that are born with a drop of God's blood within their system. So they therefore carry the magic that God may have possessed when they were alive. It is believed in this book that the gods have since disappeared and the otherborn are the remaining children of God. Now, each of the otherborns that are born are based in a certain number of children being born that directly correlates to the number of those gods that there were at the time. So for example, when it comes to our main character, Io is a Moira born, otherborn, which basically means that she can see the threads of fate, and she is born with two other sisters because it was always foretold that there were three fates. And when we're talking about the fates, we're basically talking about the Grecian fates that were believed to basically weave, sustain, and cut the threads of life. So that's basically what Io and her sisters are. We also have other gods. So for example, Phoebus is considered the god of fear, but because he was kind of an individual of his own, it was only discussed that there was one of his children that was ever born. You also have the Charisborn, which is basically someone who can go around and see violent acts and violence related things on people's skin. Like it almost seems like they're seeing the world painted in a hue of orange. There's others that are born of the god of love, and so therefore, and the goddesses of love. So they therefore can control and weave the feelings of love with the people around them. You also have the 9 muses. So the children of the 9 muses, they have to be born in a set of 9 so that they can honor each one of the different muses that have been. And so because of this, the otherborns are rare in their own right, and they are typically born to families that also have otherborn parents or otherborn blood in their family line. The otherborns, unfortunately, because of their magical powers and their abilities, are feared by the humans and therefore are oftentimes ostracized. And there was a very, shaky truce that was created between the humans and the otherborns back after a set of riots had taken place in the previous times, called the Moonset Riots. So after those riots had happened, the humans and the otherborns basically made a tenuous agreement that the humans can continue to live in their luxury and the otherborns will continue to be almost like nomads, moving from city to city to city and trying to find jobs. So many of them oftentimes live in poverty. In the case of Io specifically, we have a young girl who happens to be a cutter. Now, the thing about being a cutter is that every single time Io chooses to cut someone's thread, regardless of whether it be love or a thread that they have to something that they're attached to, such as a baked good that they absolutely love, a family member that they're very, very close to, a close friend, a lover, whatever it may be, every time they cut a thread, they must sacrifice one of their own, which therefore means you're giving up a piece of yourself in order to harness your craft. So because of this, cutters are feared by many people because obviously they can even cut the life thread. But at the same time, cutters are seen as individuals, while they hold a lot of power, the cutter themselves knows that it is actually not something that they want to go around doing, just cutting everyone's threads, because every time they do, they have to give up a piece of who they are and what they love. In terms of her older sisters, it's also very similar. Anytime they weave one of their threads or change the direction of a thread, that act requires them to give up a piece of themselves. It causes them physical pain, or it can cause them, exhaustion and pull from their own threads. So everything is a give and a take when it comes to the Moira-born sisters. Because of the other-born status, as well as the fear that many people have of cutters, basically Thais, Ava, and Io have grown up in the slums. They've grown up in poverty, and during the course of the riots, they happen to lose their parents. And so Thais, the oldest sister, has basically been raising her other two sisters. Now, Thais in and of herself is an important character in this book and pivotal to the plotline, because she, as the older sister, basically took on the role of raising her younger sisters, but also had a lot of frustration, resentment, and even sometimes anger towards them because of the fact that she had to give up a lot of things that were precious to her, a lot of her dreams, a lot of her goals, in order to be an older sister that took care of her younger sisters. Now, this being said, Io in particular and Thais have never gotten along, because Thais could sometimes straight up be cruel towards Io. And so Io has grown up in the shadow of her older sister. And sometimes when her older sister is just trying to make a quick buck, or really, really, really just wants to elevate her status so she can go live on the hills with all of the other, rich folk, and she can get out of the slums and out of this poverty life, she pulls Io into these half-brain schemes that she gets herself into. And Io then has to support her sister. But eventually something happens where Thais specifically tells her sister to cut a specific thread that Io is just not comfortable cutting. And so because of this, there has been a break between the two sisters. And at the beginning of this book, Io and Ava are living alone, and Thais has disappeared. And she's no longer with the other two sisters. Meanwhile, Ava and Io are basically just trying to survive in the slums, and Io has taken on the job of being a detective. She's basically hired by various people within the community in order to find a loved one, and on occasion she will cut a thread for them if they specifically say, hey, we will pay you extra, and it's within a moral gray where it's actually benefiting the person she's cutting the thread for, she will consider it. So for example, she's hired to go find this man at the beginning of this book who is believed to be with his mistress by his wife. And the wife basically had requested, please go spy, figure out where my husband is and what's going on, come back and report to me. And she's under the impression that she may or may not need to cut the thread between the husband and the mistress in order to return the balance, or cut the thread of the wife to the husband so that she can pack up and leave and move on with her life. So this is kind of an idea of like the type of person that Io is. Io doesn't like to sacrifice people's threads unnecessarily. She doesn't like to cut threads unnecessarily. She really, really tries to be morally grounded. Now, in the midst of going to spy on this man, another old woman shows up, and she's basically a rotting corpse. And when Io looks at her threads, she notices that her life thread has been cut and she's no longer connected to the physical realm. However, in her hand, she holds a fury whip. Now, this is important because in the other Borns, there used to be a group of people called the Furies. The Furies were the ones who were basically the judges and the executioners of justice for the other Borns, and they were their own individual system of power that basically helped maintain the balance of power within the other Born. Think of it as like judge, jury, and executioner all in one. And the reason that they were selected for this is because they had the ability to see violent crime on people, as well as the intention and motivation behind it. So they're a very powerful group. And so they used to carry with them a fury whip, where basically they could use that to cut someone's life thread, or to punish someone, or to basically wring their life out of them. Now, this wraith is now walking around as if she's a Furyborn, but she's not an actual Furyborn. She has no life left in her, and she's just carrying around a very magical, powerful whip. And in the process of trying to chase this woman down after she murders the man that her client had sent her to find, she then confronts the wraith, and the wraith returns to her with a almost poetry-like statement that says that she is connected to the divine and she has been made for this purpose to basically bring justice back. And in this process, she realizes that someone is going around creating these wraiths. In the middle of all of this, we also get introduced to another character named Edai. Edai also happens to be Io's fate thread, which she has seen her entire teendom onwards. The fate thread is basically what binds her to Edai, and this basically means that they have been fated to be made for each other. It's very, 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 very special. However, Io has never tracked down this fate thread because she's under the impression that Edai is in another relationship and she wants to give him the choice and she doesn't want to force him into a relationship. However, she also feels that thread is extremely precious and is not ready to quite give it up or cut it yet, which is a constant point of soreness for her sisters as well, who consistently tell her to cut the thread. So now in this book, we've been introduced to our main character plots. So we have Edai, we have Ava, the middle sister, we have Thais, the older sister, we have Io, our main female character. By the way, Edai is the male who's in the fate thread that Io is connected to. And so when he shows up on the scene, she is basically told to come with him in order to express what she has found. And in the process of doing this, she meets Bianca Ross, our final main character, if you will, in this series, who happens to be the mob queen of the Silts, which is where these guys live. Now, in meeting Bianca, she realizes that there have been other wraiths that have also been created that have been targeting very interesting people, specifically otherborns. And so Bianca, the mob queen, hires Io on as a detective to try to understand what is going on. And that is where the series takes off from. Now, at this point, there's adventure that ensues. There's a lot of different things that happen. We have a slow burn romance that's also building between Edai and Io throughout the course of the story. And Io learns more and more about a fated prophecy as she comes across otherborns and continues to research the cause of the wraith being formed. We are also understanding at the beginning of the book that Thais has been gone for 2 years. And throughout the course of this book, Io is also forced to come into contact with her elder sister as well, who happens to be dating a man who's trying to recreate a justice system with individuals who are otherborn, who will follow under his leadership as a human to help facilitate any kind of crimes that are occurring by the otherborn people. That was a lot, and I do apologize that some of that appeared a little bit confusing. It's really hard to express and explain this book without giving a little bit of that background. From here on, there will need to be spoilers in order to talk about the continuation of this book. So I will leave you guys here with saying that while that may have sounded very confusing initially, the world is actually very easy to get into. And once you start reading it, everything kind of falls into place pretty easily. It does read as a young adult, so it's very easy, very fun, very fast-paced. Super, super, super enjoyable book to read. I did end up giving this a solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I liked the Greek elements within the book, and I liked the way that the various characters were built and the mystery that was happening within the storyline at the same time. I think the author does a beautiful job of weaving this story and kind of showcasing the importance of family, the value of the things that we love and the people that we connect to, and how rare that truly is, as well as describing the importance of love in our life and what it means to have someone that you're fated to. So I think that was all really, really fun, and it was a very, very enjoyable book. Now, at this point, I will be going into spoilers, so if you want no spoilers, kindly click off now. So as Io is going through her various adventures, she comes across the Muses. And when she reaches the Muses, she is essentially told that she is going to be the one that cuts a thread that will bring around the end of the world as they know it. And that is why she finds out the wraiths have also been targeting her. As they have gone on their various adventures, Io has been targeted here and there, and she doesn't know why this is happening and why she's coming out with bruises and scrapes and injuries. Meanwhile, Edai and his trusty friends Kamidi and Nico have been doing everything in their power to keep Io safe. At one point, once they have a significant thread as to who the murderer may be, Io goes and presents this to the mob queen. And the mob queen in return basically says, hey, you've done your job, you can sign off now. And Io takes that as a personal hit because she tells Bianca, you are basically walking away from this because you're too afraid to deal with who might be in power. And by doing so, you are actually condemning the Silts while you are saying that you want to be queen of the Silts and you're going to protect our people. So through the course of this, Io basically discovers that the person who may be creating the wraiths might be the commissioner who is trying to position himself to be elected, to be a mayoral candidate and someone who's creating an enforcement system in the law to help keep crime off the roads. It also happens that this man is currently engaged to her older sister, who Io has not seen in ages. So Io continues to try to resolve this issue and basically goes behind Bianca's back at this point and goes to confront Thais. In the process of doing this, a wraith actually attacks the party that Thais is having in her backyard, and Io then has to reconsider what's going on. Meanwhile, as all of this is happening, Bianca has been put behind bars because there is a belief that it might be Bianca if an attack has happened on the commissioner, because Bianca did not pick up arms. Now, with all of this happening, Bianca has basically been thrown behind bars. Ide is very frustrated because Bianca was the first person to believe in him and give him a role and really has shown him that she cares about the people. And even though all the evidence is stacked against her, Io is at a loss as to what else to do, and Ide begrudgingly agrees with her. So he basically is now in a position where he knows his boss and his inspiration and his person that he's trying to emulate is behind bars. Meanwhile, Io is very confused as to whether she can trust her older sister or not, who has basically gotten into bed with a politician that she has always sworn she would never want to be a part of. And then all of a sudden they find out that Bianca herself has been turned into a wraith. Now, the interesting thing that happens here is Bianca is Charisborn. So because she's Charisborn, she's as close to Furyborn as you get. So she is the first wraith that is created that is able to control her mind and maintain her sense of self and maintain her life while also having her life thread be cut. And she actually physically is able to take all of her threads together and create a true Fury whip. So inadvertently, Bianca becomes the first Fury wraith, which is what the people who are trying to create the wraiths are trying to do. At the end of the book, everything has fallen apart. Bianca and Ava, who were dating, the middle sister, end up breaking up. Ava and Thais basically are forced to reveal, especially in Thais' case, that she did in fact betray Io and was behind the creation of these wraiths. And so they've taken off, and Io is stuck in this world of just confusion and betrayal all around her. Ide is injured gravely and is just trying to recover, and Io has to go off to the thread, go after the thread that has been left in the wake of all of this mess, which has one singular gold thread amongst all the silver. And this is very important because that piece of gold, that one gold thread, shows her that the gods are still alive and they're the ones calling the shots. So Io and Bianca decide that they're going to go after the gods. And that's where this book ends. So again, up until this point, we don't know if the gods are real or not. We've been sent on a bunch of different random goose chases. We have a murder mystery that Io is trying to solve. And then at the end of it all, she finds out that the entity that actually might be controlling all the things happening is someone way more powerful than any of them could have possibly thought. So great ending, great plot line, great like cliffhanger to leave off on, and just an absolute wonderful book. That takes us to Hearts That Cut. So at the beginning of this book, Bianca and Io are basically on a wild goose chase trying to figure out where this god is living so that they can ask for clarification and figure out exactly what's going on. During this process of her trying to track down this god thread, however, Ide and Io had left off basically saying that no matter what happens, we will find one another. However, as she's going on this wild goose chase and days turns to weeks, weeks turns to months, and they basically have gone all across the country at this point, from north to south to east to west, she finds out that her fate thread appears to be fraying, and it also feels like it is no longer as glowing and as healthy and as strong as it once was. And she's fearful that there's almost a barrier being created on this fate thread. So as Io is going through her adventures, she also feels like she's slowly losing Ide. During this phase, I think it was really important for this character growth because Io is forced to make decisions for herself and kind of own her oneness as a character and kind of show her badass capacities, if you will. So that part was really fun, and that's essentially the first part of this book is just Bianca and her trying to find this trail where this gold god thread is going. Bianca is coming with her because she's promised revenge and she's a full-blown wraith now, and Ava has left her in the hands of her sister. Meanwhile, Ava and Thais have decided disappeared. And then we also find out that during the beginning of this book, there are people that have been going missing. And as we are looking deeper and deeper into what's going on, many of these individuals are actually Karis-born children, or within the realm of a god who helps, who is the same as a Karis-born, but in a different like religion, if you will. And these individuals are now being targeted for their threads to be cut. So during this process, she realizes that people have realized that Bianca is the first wraith who has been able to keep her mind and actually continue to function. So they've been trying to find more and more people like her. As she's tracking people down, eventually we get to a point in the book where Ida and her reconnect, and she realizes that someone has been misdirecting her. In the course of this, she does discover that it's none other than one of her sisters, and she feels very betrayed by her sisters as she comes upon Ava and Thias. And then we find out that Thias has been following the directions and recommendations of her superiors that have told her to basically weave these threads into a fate whip, without realizing who was actually controlling the order. She just knows it was the gods, but she doesn't know why the gods have sent her on this wild goose chase. So she then decides that she will join Io in a very reluctant way to basically figure out what's going on, as she starts to realize that many of the people that she has been turning into wraiths are not making it and they're not surviving, and she has buyer's remorse and guilt. This part of the book was actually very sweet and emotional as well, because Io really has to confront her feelings for her older sister and her middle sister. We also get a lot more explanation from both of them as to why they behave the way that they do, and they really depict the behavior patterns of eldest, middle, and youngest child. And so it was really interesting to see that dynamic. We also get to see Edai and her repair their relationship and kind of go through a lot. As they're going through this, they also realize that a lot of what's going on has to do with the riots that had taken place in the beginning of the first book that basically reshaped the world as they know it. And so when they start discovering more and more information about what happened in the past, they are brought into the captivity of the mob bosses in Nancy, which is where they end up for the remainder of the book. And the mob boss there is basically someone who controls love and the feelings of love. And so with his help, they basically do eventually track down the gods, and they confront the gods, and they get a better, clearer picture of why what happened has happened. And they get a clearer picture as to why these wraiths are being created, and they've been targeting Io. And at the end of this book, Io has to decide whether or not she's going to cut that thread and whether or not she's going to take on the gods and prevent the world as they know it from changing, or whether or not she's going to take that step and basically fight the gods and give humanity a fighting chance to take care of themselves and grow to the next phase in life. So the standoff at the end of the book was also really cool, and the moral conversation that happens within Io's head was very beautifully written. And at the end of the book, this idea of a community coming together, regardless of where their backgrounds were, was also very beautiful to see. I also think it was really interesting the way that the betrayals that happened in this book and the twists and turns were done in this book were woven into the story so seamlessly. And they really do a good job of expressing Io's character as well. I think the overall story plot on Hearts That Cut was great, and I just think that this series in whole just had so much depth and meaning to it, and I think for a young adult novel, I was quite impressed by how well it was written. The actual adventure and the storyline in the book is also a ton of fun, so if that's what you're looking for, definitely consider picking this series up. This was a solid 4-star read for me as well. And I will leave everyone there. I really hope I didn't offer too many spoilers about these books if you haven't read them. And if you have read them, definitely let me know what you thought of the books, because I would love to know other people's feelings on this series as well. I really enjoyed this duology, and I can definitely see myself picking up other books by this author in the future. Well, guys, that's all I've got for you today. And you know what they say, third time's the charm. So finally, this video has been filmed and completed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. For those of you that are new here, welcome to the channel. Once again, my name is Jaya. I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday on bookish related content, primarily related to fiction, oftentimes in different genres. So if that sounds like something that would strike your fancy, considering hitting that subscribe button, because I would love to see you back, and that notification bell so you guys never miss out on anything that's coming up. I also do random videos here and there. So every once in a while, there'll be like a travel blog in there, or maybe an unboxing, or maybe a packing video, things like that. But for the most part, we stick to books here on this channel. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. Building this community with you guys has been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to continue doing this with every single one of you. I just love books so much. And I think the bookish community is one of those few places where everyone can appreciate the fact that not every book is for everybody, but the beauty of books in general is that it creates conversation and allows you to think in a multitude of different ways and also better understand other people and society as a whole. Like, it just offers so much. So once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support, and thank you for, being a part of this community. That being said, wherever any of you are, whether it's morning, evening, or night, I hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful day with yourself and your loved ones, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.